Mom splits hairs with nanny to save a few dollars and ends up back paying hundreds family. I'm working for admonished me for charging them an extra $12.50 that they technically owed. So, in the interest of accuracy, I tracked hours that I generously chose not to charge them, and they ended up paying hundreds back to me. Karen and Ken are wealthy and extremely stingy. Their kid is Bob. Henry is an extremely sweet, generous single dad who lost his husband a few years ago and dotes on his kid Steve. I have been a nanny for several years now, and for the most part, I've worked with lovely, reasonable families. I have contracts for every family that guarantees the hours that I work, meaning if a family goes on vacation, I still get paid because I'm technically available to work, but they chose not to use my services. Think gym membership where you pay, regardless of whether you've been to the gym in a month. This is standard on nanny contracts. Another bit on my contract is called the nanny share. So if two of the families want to combine for the day, each of them pays 2/3 of my regular pay rate. I get paid a little more for watching more kids, and they save a little only paying a portion of what they would have paid. Karen and Ken's family went to Hawaii 3 weeks ago, and per my contract, I was to be paid as usual. Before they left, they asked if I could come in and watch the Bob this Sunday after they returned so that they could recover and rest. I agreed, and my hours were set at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. that Sunday. They went on the trip, everything was wonderful, and they texted me when they landed saying they would see me at 8 a.m. The next day, when I was about to head out the door at 7:30 a.m., I received a text saying that Bob were just waking up, so I should just show up at 8:30 instead. After the day of nannying, Karen asked if I would stay past my regular hours during the upcoming week so that they could have 2 date nights. I agreed, and Karen said she would reimburse me for all the extra hours at the end of the week since it'd be easier just to make one payment. Totally fine with me. The week finished, and I ended up staying an extra 8 hours total for the 2 date nights. I asked Ken to pay me for 16 hours, but he said he had to talk to Karen first to double-check hours and would pay me shortly. When I got home, I received a text from Karen saying, "Hi, Meowsosaurus, thank you so much for covering for us these past few weeks. Ken and I are feeling refreshed, and the show was hilarious. Since we were in Hawaii, you were paid for an entire week while you weren't working. We don't think this is quite fair as it is a large sum of money. So we'd like to apply some of those hours to your babysitting today and yesterday. We will pay you for 8 hours instead." I was furious. I screenshotted the part of my contract that plainly stated I would be paid for any hours that their family was on vacation, and I reminded her that it was in violation of contract. She reluctantly agreed, and I texted that it would be a total of 16 hours. Karen instantly replied and went off, texting, "On Sunday, we asked you to come in at 8:30, not 8. We are already being generous and paying you for the holiday we took. We expect you to track your hours better next time. This is unacceptable. You need to be as accurate as possible with the hours that we are paying you. We will pay you for 15.5 hours. Readers, this was a difference of $12.50. I was going to SS the part of my contract that said any rescheduling needed a 24-hour notice, but instead, I went nuclear. Bob has been tagging along with Steve and me to music class and soccer twice a week outside of Karen's regular contracted hours since January. Karen has never offered to pay for those hours, but Henry was fine with paying his full rate for those hours because Steve was having trouble making friends at school and had become close to Bob. I chose not to say anything about the slight bump in pay because I loved watching them play together. Malicious compliance time. As Karen stated, I needed to be as accurate as possible. I calculated all the hours that Bob has joined us since January, 6 hours per week times 18 weeks, and the total amount they owed was almost $2,000. In the group chat with Karen, Ken, and Henry, I said, Karen stated that it was of utmost importance that I track the hours as accurately as possible, so I took it upon myself to double-check everything, including the share hours. Thank goodness I did. I didn't realize we had forgotten to track all the hours that Bob joined us for soccer and music. Henry, I'm so sorry. Karen actually owes you quite a bit of money. If my calculations are correct, they owe X dollars to you and to me. Henry replied, Karen and Ken, I am so disappointed to hear that Meowsosaurus hasn't been compensated properly this entire time. I don't need my hours to be refunded for those hours, BC. I wanted Steve to continue his playdates, but you need to pay Meowsosaurus's portion immediately. I got a huge chunk of money I wasn't expecting, and I am now on the hunt for my next nanny family. I'll be putting my 2 weeks notice with Karen and Ken as soon as I do. Edit. Replaced acronyms with fake names.
All that drama over $12, and they ended up paying nearly $2,000. Honestly, I think the nanny played it smart here. But what about you? Was this pure justice or a bit too much? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more wild stories.
We must get our pictures taken? Okay. I worked in a factory years ago that had what we called the Wall of Shame. It had pictures taken by a professional photographer of all office and floor personnel. As you would expect, the floor personnel were all in dirty factory clothes, office people in dress attire. This was done when that plant opened, and new hires were sent to the photographer's studio for their picture at the end of their first year. I worked third shift and was told that I and another coworker had to go after our shift to get it done. Tried to get out of it, but was told in no uncertain terms that we had to go. Cue the seemingly harmless malicious compliance. The coworker I went with was a drinking buddy. I told him at the bar the day before to bring a shirt and tie. He asked why, and I told him it would upset the plant manager. He was in. The next morning we went to the studio, and the photographer gave us a puzzled look. He said he thought he had 2 floor workers scheduled, not office workers. For those that don't know, floor workers at most factories are considered extremely stupid trained monkeys. I innocently said, we didn't know we couldn't look nice for our pictures. He dubiously took our pictures and sent us on our way. The fallout. About a month later, my coworker and I were called into the plant manager's office to explain our pictures. He was ready to explode when I again explained we just wanted to look nice, as our pictures were being professionally taken. He turned a deep shade of red when I added, I didn't know it was against the rules for floor workers to dress up for their pictures. He dismissed us while trying not to flip out on us. My friend and I barely held our laughter in as he slammed the door behind us. It gave me great amusement to look at those pictures until they closed the plant.
These factory workers turned the Wall of Shame into the best prank ever. Honestly, I love how they handled it. What do you think? Harmless fun or crossing the line? Drop your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome stories.
Karen says stop cheating to reserve the best parking space in front of the building. A Karen neighbor of mine complained that my roommate and I park in the same parking spot, which is right next to the walkway up to the apartment building. Both of us ride motorcycle, and both motorcycles belong to me. But my roommate rides one to get to work. She accused me of using my second bike to get a de facto reserved a parking spot when nobody in the complex has one, and said that what I'm doing is not fair and it's cheating. I said, okay, I'll stop parking both my bikes in one spot. She seemed satisfied with that and left. An hour later, I had all 7 of my motorcycles, 5 of them from inside the garage I rent, but it's halfway across the apartment complex, sitting in front of the apartment building, taking up every prime parking space, in front of the walkway to my hall in the building. She went straight to the management to complain. The management came out and knocked on my door. We can't have you using up every parking space. Let me guess, Karen complained? Yes. Yeah, she told me I'm not allowed to have 2 bikes in one parking space to reserve a space. I'm not doing it to reserve a space. Both my roommate and I ride both of the bikes we park in that one space. All the bikes belong to me, but I gave the keys to one of them to my roommate to ride for commuting to work. The other one is my bike for going wherever I need. We park both in one spot to be nice and conserve parking spaces so other people have somewhere to park. I was just showing Karen what would happen if I'm only allowed 1 bike per parking space. The other 5 bikes are generally sited in another parking space in my garage where I keep the bikes that don't ride frequently. The apartment manager said, I understand. You made your point and I'll talk to her. Please put the other 5 bikes back in the garage. No problem, I said. It's been a few weeks. Haven't heard from Karen. Sats. Edit. Since so many people are inventing details not in the story, assuming those details are true, and then getting upset over what they imagined, let me clarify something. This happened at 1 in the afternoon, on a day both my roommate and I had off. Most people are away at work during this time. What's more, With the exact topography of the apartment complex, there are only 2 apartments per walkway without going upstairs on my side of the building, but 4 on the other sides because it's up a level and the building is built into a hill. What this means is that most people park on the other side of the building, leaving most of the parking spots in front of my building free and open, except for very late at night. How the heck do you think I took up the 7 closest spots with all 7 bikes if the parking lot was full of people trying to park? Think about it for just a second before you assume details that aren't spoken just because you want something to be upset over. Both bikes are away from the apartment complex at the same time for a minimum of 4 hours a day. We didn't engineering the situation where my roommate gets home between 3 to 4 in the afternoon and thus gets first pick of the parking spots. We also could both be driving cars instead of riding bikes. Then there'd be 2 spots taken up instead of 1. I could just choose not to rent a garage and park all 7 out there, forcing people into overflow parking, but I don't. Also, the garage is beyond the overflow parking. It's not fair to expect me to always park in the garage and walk even further because you don't want to park next to my bikes and have all of 2 extra feet to walk to reach the concrete walkway to the building.
Karen thought she'd win by complaining, but instead she got a front row seat to 7 parked motorcycles. Personally, I think this is hilarious. What about you? Too petty or perfectly deserved? Share your thoughts below and remember to like and subscribe for more crazy stories.
Teacher wouldn't listen, so the entire class complied, and he got fired. TLDR at bottom. This happened in the early 2000s, in my junior year of high school. The district had just built the 3rd high school in our city, and most of the teachers were new. The band director was one of those new hires. He was qualified for the job, but had 0 people skills, and was extremely abrasive towards students. He had previously taught university, and could not wrap his head around the fact that high school students are not college-level music majors who live in practice rooms and write symphonies in their sleep. His normal behavior consisted of berating students for not knowing university-level curriculum, talking down to everyone about how he can't understand why they were so incompetent, and stopping rehearsals to go on long tangents about things that had nothing to do with music. Every day, at least 2 to 3 students would leave class in tears. We complained to the higher-ups, and they repeatedly brushed us off. He made students hate attending his music classes, and many dropped band and orchestra as a result. One of the classes he taught was supposed to be Intro to Music Theory. For those who don't know music, this would be a class that should typically teach things like different types of chords, the definition of music symbols, the logic behind key changes, etc. At the first class of the year, there were about 25 kids enrolled. Most of these were music and drama kids who wanted to be teachers or performers in the arts one day. On the first day, he handed us a quiz because he wanted to see how much we knew. I think there were maybe 3 to 5 kids who were able to attempt a single question on the quiz. No one got a single answer right. That's how advanced it was. Imagine signing up for what you think is a basic pre-algebra class and walking into advanced calculus. This teacher spent the entire class period berating us for not being prepared when no one could even attempt his quiz. We told him, "This is an intro class. None of us have learned anything like this before." And his response was, "Really? I thought this was an advanced class." The next class period, there were maybe 15 kids enrolled. He did the same thing, asked us to perform something we can't even understand, and then berated us for not being prepared. At every class, he would say, "I thought you all were musicians. This is supposed to be an advanced class." By the end of the second week, there were 6 students left enrolled in this class, including myself. He softened up slightly to those of us who stayed, and seemed to think we were his prize students, and that this was his class of elites. Think Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter. In truth, we all thought he was insane and cruel, but the 6 of us had sufficient music background and experience to understand a fraction of his lessons. Without the bell curve, we all would have failed his class. A few months go by, and we are at the end of the first semester. By now, every student connected to music in the school hated this guy, and repeated complaints had done nothing to fix the problem. The admins filed away every complaint. but never did anything more than remind him that he's supposed to be more kind to students. He changes nothing and still berates students and makes them cry. So when it comes to the final exam for his theory class, he decides that he wants to give it to us early, so that on the day the final is supposed to be scheduled, we can have a class party instead. Of the 6 of us left, 4 of us have the same period after his class together as well. That class was AP English, and we were prepping for the AP test. We had no problem with a class party and music right before the AP prep exam, so we didn't complain. The day comes of our music final exam, and after we finish the test, he tells us that for our class party, he wants to take us all to breakfast at a new IHOP that opened 20 minutes away. His class was first period. We try to tell him all the issues with this plan. We aren't allowed to leave campus without permission slips. It was a closed campus policy due to an incident where a student who left campus for lunch got hit by a car and was killed. We will not get back in time for second period, which is a final exam. He doesn't have permission to remove us from the campus. What if there is an emergency and we are unaccounted for because we aren't even at the school? His solution was to tell us that after the start of class on our final class day, he would be going to IHOP, and if we wanted to join him, that was our choice. But if we didn't, we would have to stay in the classroom and not bring attention to the next, that there was no class and no teacher. Without talking about it to each other, the 6 of us saw an opportunity to finally get the admin's attention to the complete disregard this teacher had for rules and policies. We made sure to inform our English teacher that we might be late to class on the day of the final due to a class field trip for music theory. She was irritated and reminded us that this final was very important and that she would not give us extra time if we came in late. We told her that we understood and gave her details about where we would be and what we would be doing and who we would be with. She said she still expected us to be in her class. On the day of the final, we all went to IHOP. It took forever to get there because of construction, and forever to get our food, because the restaurant was newly opened and had a large number of customers. We got back to the school halfway through our second period class. The admins were waiting for us. Security was waiting for us. My English teacher had called the front office to complain that 4 of her best students were missing and that she was fairly certain we weren't even on campus. The admins had checked attendance and seen that we were all marked present that morning, and they had searched the entire school looking for our class. The 4 of us walked into our English final to a livid teacher. We knew she was pissed at us, but couldn't punish us beyond saying we had the same remaining time as the rest of the class. Since we had been with a teacher in our absence, none of us did as well in the final as we could have if we had the full 87 minutes. But we were doing well enough in the class already that the lesser marks didn't affect our overall grade too much. The band teacher had a private reprimand that was so loud the entire school could hear it. He was confused as to why the administration was upset that he took minor children off campus without permission or notice, without proper school transportation, or even a good reason. He stayed with his usual attitude, but this time towards the admins. Why are you guys so incompetent about this? They are old enough to drive. What's the problem? The English teacher, who I actually adore and was one of the best teachers I've ever had, absolutely went mama bear on the administration about how they could continue to employ someone who disrespects the other teachers so much as to deprive his students of their final exams and put them in potentially dangerous circumstances. He told us to drive ourselves to the restaurant, and any accidents or medical issues would have been the school's fault. He was fired later that day. Many of the students had a gleeful but confused reaction, since the 6 of us weren't talking to anyone about it. All most people knew was that this tyrant of a teacher was gone. We didn't spread the story very much of how it happened because we still feared being reprimanded for our involvement, since he technically have us a choice to go with him or stay. But I always smiled when people gossiped about what the final straw was that got him fired. TLDR, jerk teacher told us to leave school with him for class party. We complied, and the district fired him.
Man, this teacher really thought he was untouchable, and look how that turned out. Honestly, I think the students handled it perfectly. But what do you think? Was this the right way to get rid of him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks a lot for watching. Share your own stories in the comments and check out our other videos. Take care. See you soon.